This is the third video clip looking at revision for S3 assessment. It's the Calculator paper and it's at the National 4 level. This is a formula list that you're given. In this session here, what we're going to do is we're going to look at questions 17 through to 24, and that should cover some volume problem solving, some trig ratios, that would be SOHCAHTOA with angle and side calculations, some money questions dealing with hire purchase and also currency exchange, some percentage work, some perimeter with circle related questions, and also Pythagoras theorem. So let's go for our first question. So we're on to question 17 now. If you want to see questions 1 to 16, they're in the previous clips. Right, so this question here, what we have is orange juice is poured from a carton into some glasses. The carton is a cuboid, 15 centimetres long, 10 centimetres wide and 20 centimetres high. 125 cubic centimetres of juice is poured into each glass. How many glasses of juice can be poured from the full carton? So let's just do a quick sketch of what the carton would look like. So let's see. So I've got 15 centimetres long, I'll go for 10 high, okay, something like that there. So I'm just doing it very, very roughly. So there's our juice carton there, okay. So we've got 15 centimetres long, 15 centimetres there, I've got 10 centimetres wide, and it's 20 centimetres high. Okay, so that's my my carton. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find out the volume of the carton. I'm going to get that first, and then I'm looking at dividing it by the 125 that's poured into each glass, and that should tell me how many glasses are actually filled from the carton. So the volume of the carton, so volume is going to be equal to length times breadth times the height. Okay, so the length is 15, the breadth is going to be 10, and the height is going to be 20. All I need to do is I can do that non-calculator, or because it's a calculator paper, why not just use your calculator? So 15 times 10 times 20, and that should give us an answer of 3,000. Okay, so that's 3,000. I'm working in centimetres, and that's cubed units, okay, for the volume. Now I'm going to find out how many glasses can be filled. So the number of glasses, and that's the number of glasses filled, will be equal to the 3,000 that's there, because that's the amount of volume or amount of juice that's in the carton, and I'm going to be filling up each glass, and I'm going to be putting 125 cubic centimetres into each glass. And again, so I've got 3,000 still in my calculator there. What I'll do is I'll divide that by 125, and that should give me an answer of 24. So that will be 24 glasses. That's that one done. Next question. Right, so this one here, we've got a ladder. It's 5.2 metres long, so there's the ladder here. It's placed against a wall. The foot of the ladder is 1.6 metres from the wall, okay? So I can see that this forms a triangle here, and triangle questions generally at this stage are looking at either SOHCAHTOA, a trig ratio, or it's looking at Pythagoras. So the size of the angle between the ladder and the ground is x, calculate x. So to calculate an angle, that's not a Pythagoras question, that would then be a SOHCAHTOA or trig ratio question. Right, let's go ahead and we'll label up the triangle as we know. So looking at the right angle, across from the right angle, that arrow is pointing to the hypotenuse. Going to the angle, opposite the angle is the opposite side. The side that's left is the adjacent side. I'll write up SOHCAHTOA, and I'm going to tick the items that I've got, or what I'm going to try and have to find. So I'm going to find the angle, so I could use any one of these. I could use sine, cosine or tan. Remember, that's the buttons that are on your calculator, the sine, the cosine or the tan buttons. So it's the angle I'm going to have to work out, so I know that I'm going to have to use these ones here. I know what A is 1.6 metres, so I'm going to tick A. I know the hypotenuse, it's 5.2 metres, so I'll tick H. Okay, so that's looking like the cosine button is the one I'm going to use. So I'll set up the cosine ratio first. So cosine of x is going to be equal to a over h. So that's the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. Right, so here we go. It's the angle that I'm trying to find out now. So I've got values here. A is 1.6 on the top, and on the denominator at the bottom is the hypotenuse, which is 5.2. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to work this out on my calculator. And I'm just going to do that by dividing, because that's just our dividing line there. 1.6 divided by 5.2, oops, 1.6 divided by 5.2, that'll give me an answer of 0.30769 and some more characters there. What I could do is I could round this number to 3 decimal places, and I'll do that just now just so that we can use that and we'll get the same answer coming out. So I've got 0.30, that 6 is going to round that 7 up to an 8. So I'm going to use that number there. I could have left that in my calculator and worked it through from there, but for this case we're just going to work out to 3 decimal places. I'm then going to find out what my angle is. Remember, when you're always working out the angle, you take the inverse cosine. That's cosine to the -1. And it's this number that I'm putting in here. So it's the inverse cosine. So that's on your calculator. You could call it the shift cosine. So I'm going to go shift and then cosine. And you can see in the calculator it appears with the -1. In there I'm going to put my number, 0.308. And I'm just going to press my equals button. So what that gives me is x is going to be equal to 72.0615753 degrees. So I'm going to really round this number here. I don't think it asked me to round it in the question, but I'm going to round it. I'm going to round it to 1 decimal place for an angle. Okay, so I'm going to cut the number there. 72 point, the 0 changes to a 1 based on that 6 that's there. 1, and that's degrees. And there's my answer. Right, let's have a look at question 19. Right, question 19 is a money related question, and it's a hire purchase question. Cash price of a television is £260. It can be bought on hire purchase by paying 25% of the cash price, followed by 15 instalments of £14. Find the total hire purchase cost or price for the television. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for the total price, total hire purchase price. It's going to be equal to, so it's going to be the deposit that I'm putting down, and it's going to be plus the instalment cost, okay? Oops. Right. So the deposit, it says it's 25% cash. So it's 25% of that cash price there. So for this part, I'm going to do 25% of £260. Okay. After I do that part there, I'm going to work out the instalments, and the instalments are just going to be 15 times £14. So let's work out this part first. So this is a percentage question. On the calculator, what I'm going to put in for 25%, some people might know it as a quarter, so I would just quarter 260, which is just dividing it by 4. So I could half it and half it again. That's another way I could do it. If I've got the calculator, what I'll do is I'll start with 260, I'll divide it by 100, and I'll times it by 25. So I'll put all of that into the calculator. The reason why I'm doing that is because 25%, remember 25% is the same as 25 over 100 as a fraction. Remember, that's a dividing line there, so I'm just going to be dividing by 100 times by 25. What I'll do is I'll work this bit out later, and that should give me my total. Right, onto my calculator now. Right, so what I'm going to put in first of all is 260 divided by 100, and then I'm going to times it by 25. That will give me 25%. So that's like a quarter of that. I'm going to add on to that 15 times 14. So 15 times 14, so that's £210. When I gather that together, if I add that together, I'll just use the calculator again, that'll give me £275. And that'll be my final answer for that one there. So that will be the total hire purchase price. Now I've kept that all together to show you how that's done. You can do the things separately and add them together at the end to get your final answer. That's question 19. On to question 20. Right, question 20. We've got the shaded part of a garden light is triangular. So I've got a triangle here, calculate the value of x. So it's a side on the triangle I'm working out. I can't use Pythagoras' theorem on this one because I don't know two of the sides. So I'm going to have to use SOHCAHTOA, or trig ratio it's called. If I've got an angle in there, it's generally going to be a trig ratio question, so let's label up the triangle. Right, so I'm going to be looking across the triangle from the right angle. This is my hypotenuse, okay, the H. Go to the angle. Opposite the angle is the opposite side, and the one that's left is the adjacent. I'll write up SOHCAHTOA, and I'm going to tick the bit I'm trying to find out. So I'm trying to find out the length of this side, and that's the adjacent. So I'm going to tick the adjacent sides. Okay? I'm then looking around the triangle. I've got the hypotenuse. I know the hypotenuse equals 20, so what I'll do is I'll tick the hypotenuse. Where I've got the two ticks, I'm going to use that button in my calculator. So again, the middle button is the cosine button. So sine, cosine, tan. Cosine button I'm going to use. I'm going to have to write down my cosine ratio first. So cosine of x is equal to a over h. I'm then going to put the values in that I know already. So I've got the cosine of 65 degrees is equal to a, right, I'm going to put in x for that, that's what I'm trying to work out, and for h I'm going to put in 20. Now I know the way to switch that around. I'm going to multiply this side here by 20, so it's just 20 times the cosine of 65. That will tell me the value that I'm after. And I'm looking here, I don't need to round it to any specific figure, so here we go, 20 times, I'm going to press the cosine button, this one here, and then what we'll do is we'll put in 65, so that's our 65 degrees going in. Pressing equals gives me my answer. So that's going to be x equals 8.452365, and what I'll do is I'll just round this one to, let's see, we'll go to 8.5 because I'll just round it to one place. The units that I'm working with are centimetres, so that will also be in centimetres there. So that's going to be 8.5 centimetres. On to question 21. Right, we've got a few questions on this slide here. What we've got first of all is a money question. So before he went on holiday to Australia, Jack changes £2,000 into Australian dollars. Remember, when we're changing pounds into dollars, we're going to multiply by the exchange rate because we're going away on holiday. So the exchange rate was £1 is equal to 1.58 Australian dollars. How many Australian dollars did Jack receive? So the Australian dollars equal to, so remember we're just going to multiply this, and we've got our calculator here, so it's a calculator question, although I'm sure you could do this without a calculator. So it's the amount that I'm trying to change multiplied by the exchange rate that I've got. Right, calculator over, let's go for it. So I've got 2,000 multiplied by 1.58, that gives me 3160, okay, so that's Australian dollars. Okay. Right, so while in Australia, he changed a further £400 into Australian dollars. He received 620 Australian dollars. What was the exchange rate? Right, right, so the way we're going to do this is we're going to work out our exchange rate. Right, to work out the exchange rate, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work out how many dollars I got was 620 on the top, how many pounds was I changing, so I'll divide it by that. That should tell me what my exchange rate is. So remember, in the calculator, that'll be 620. Remember when you see it like a fraction like that, it's just a division, dividing by 400. And that should give me my final answer. So this new exchange rate was 620 divided by 400, and that gives